Well, hello, you lovely humans. How are you? Welcome back to Aquarius Rising Africa, where we're just having fun here at the moment. It's wonderful. The weather's warm. It's divine. And I hope you're all wonderful. Charmaine, Jojo, Lisa D, all of you in the chat. So good to see you, Kyle. And of course, we have a beautiful new member, Charmaine van Deventer. Bye bye, donkey. Ek waardeer dit baie. So thank you so much to all our lovely members and our wenches with wrenches. So good to have you all here. And of course, we have with us again the awesome Dr. Dennis. And we're going to be talking about rising shenanigans, rising darkness, rising shenanigans. Well, I always say that, as the darkness rises, so does the light. So we just got to shine on, baby. Just shine on. And without any further ado, ta-da.
Hello.
There he
All
is.
right. Hello, everyone.
Hello, Dr.
Yeah, I was going to say good afternoon.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
afternoon where I'm at. I think it's night where you are, but it's
Yeah,
definitely a good day to be here.
it's 6 o'clock in the evening, but now that summer is here, the sun is still shining, and it's still a little bit chilly in the evening, hence the polka dotty look again. But days are beautiful. Summer is here. We're happy to have our sun back. So yes, I hope you guys are getting ready for hibernation on that side of the world.
Mhm. Yeah, we're going. Well, I think it's now like the third day past fall, but it doesn't feel kind of like fall
Yeah.
outside. It still feels like summer, but hopefully we'll have what's called an Indian summer. That's sort of like warm days and cool nights. That's my favorite time of the year when it does that. But definitely, I'm starting to look forward to Halloween. There, that's one of my busiest seasons, by the way. I'm in more demand around Halloween for stuff. And I wonder why that is. But anyway, uh, I
I wonder
I get
why that
ready for the
is.
season there. Yeah, definitely. But
Yeah.
today
Well, we're gonna.
we've got an interesting show. I hope planned out for everyone today. I've been doing. I was going to tell you a little something about my background. When I was younger, back in my younger days, I studied journalism. I was intended to go into journalism and be a journalist, but never did get to that, unfortunately. And I do question some of the modern day journalists. They're not really journalists, some of them. Most of them are something else besides that. They're not the real deal anymore, but journalism has always been. So, because of that, journalism being one of my favorite things, I've always watched the news very closely. I keep abreast, especially world news, politics, and all the other stuff that's going on, in the world, and do I like where you live in Africa and all the different places. It kind of gives me a wider perspective on the whole world, not just in one place where I happen to live. And I think that's good. That's the good thing about journalism is that it expands your mind. Definitely it opens your horizons up, or it should anyway. But I have been watching the news a lot lately, even more so than I usually do. And things are really beginning to surprise me, Shanti. Just when I get to the point where I think I can't be surprised anymore, I get proven wrong. It seems like that things are really picking up pace in the world. Things are really going on. And I've talked about my own country here in the United States, where I've mentioned this to some people just recently. It seems like to me that we've got some kind of a secret civil war going on here, and it's really not secret much anymore. It's not hidden.
Right.
It's coming out in the open more, but it's not just here in this country that I've been watching. I mean, I've been watching the things going on in Paris, in Stockholm, in London, uh, everywhere in the world. There's a lot of social unrest going on here, more so than ever before. And as somebody interested in journalism and as a writer and all that too, I approach this from a different perspective and wonder, why is that happening? What's going on here? Is I think without a doubt, knowing as a minister, I know that there definitely is a lot of darkness in this world. Okay, and you've got two kinds of darkness that you deal with. You've got human darkness and inhuman darkness. When you deal with either one of those, it's a bad thing. It's always a bad day when you have to deal with it, because I have done that as a policeman on many occasions. I have done that in that way. But when those two things combine, you've really got double barrel trouble. That's the way that goes. And I think that's what you're seeing in the world today more than ever before. Human and inhuman evil working and coordinating together. But there are people in the background, human people, like a lot of these so called billionaires or philanthropists and all that, that are working in the background to sway social consciousness to the way they want it to go. And what you're looking at, well, the reason why you see a lot of these people out there rioting and doing these bad things, and I've been watching this. It's just amazing to see the violence, the amount of violence that's taking place. That's why we're going to call this show today "The Rising Darkness." The darkness is that violence. Part of that is violence. Violence is never a good thing. Okay, no matter which way you look at it. There's no excuse for it. Okay, a lot of people say they're just being human. People get mad, they don't do things, but that's not a good excuse. And that's never an excuse for this kind of actions that are going on. People getting mad, and even on personal level, just like you and I, if we were having a discussion, and I don't agree with you or you don't agree with me, we're never going to do that 100% of the time. We may be on the same level sometimes and agree on things, but we're never going to be that 100%. But that doesn't mean we need to start hating each other for that, And my last show we talked about that, that hatred that's going on in the world, which is what the fuel for this darkness is. The darkness is fueled by hatred and stuff like that, and that's rising. That darkness, that hatred, is rising to a level we've never truly seen before in this world, and that's what really bothers me, really worries me, concerns me, because when that darkness like that rises, bad things are going to happen, folks. Bad things are going to happen. And we have seen this in the past, in history. We've seen these things. Just think about the revolution in France, in Paris, and all the guillotine work that went on. When they took even the king and the queen of France out and cut their heads off. That's what you're looking at here, even on a greater scale than that. When people lose control, when mob control takes over, that's a bad thing. And I've said this, you have the right, and it's a precious right, for your voice to be heard, for your opinion to be given, no matter what the situation. I believe in that 100%. I believe in free speech, absolutely. And I oppose anyone who doesn't, because that is, I think, a fundamental right given to you by God, not the government, not a group of men that get together and decide to do that. That is your fundamental right, spiritual right that you were born with. And when somebody tries to take your voice away from you, that's never good. That's a bad thing. Whoever tries to take your voice is not doing good. They're on the bad side. Okay. But take this for an example, and having been a law officer, and I've seen a lot of this stuff like that going on, and every day when I put that uniform on, I had a big sign on my back, it said police. Okay. That was a target. All right. And I knew that without a doubt. That was a target. That when I put that uniform on in the morning, I didn't know if I was ever going to come back home or not. And now you really don't know with this stuff going on like it is. This is even 10 times worse than when I was a cop, the stuff that's going on. But when you put that uniform on, and the looks I would get from some people, Shanty, was pure hatred and evil, just because of the uniform I was wearing. I represented authority, and they didn't like that. But let me give you an example. Let's say somebody, heaven, God forbid, breaks into your house tonight, rapes you, beats you up, and steals all your stuff. Who you going to call? Okay, you're not going to call the neighborhood bully to come in and help you. You're not going to call for your nearby politician or senator or whatever that. You're not going to call them. You call who? The police. They're what stands between you and the darkness of civilization. The darker aspects of that. Now, I want to say this about policemen, having on a whole lot of them. I've interacted with FBI agents. I've interacted with the CIA. I've interacted with the U.S. Marshals. I've interacted with all of them. Let me say this. Your policeman is just like your doctor or your lawyer or your engineer or whatever. They're human beings, okay? And there can be some bad ones in the box. Definitely. There can be some bad ones in there. That's the way it goes with humanity. None of us are perfect. We are apt to do bad things, okay? That can happen. But look at your alternative. You have no alternative. You've got to depend upon these people to help you. And if you take that buffer away, you're dealing with the uncivilized part of this darkness that you got to go with, okay? And you've taken away a very important aspect of your safety and security because that's what they stand between you and that. They stand there and when I put a uniform on, I was not the law. I represented the law. That's a big difference in that, okay? Now, a lot of people, and what makes for a bad policeman, he thinks he is the law. The policeman is not the law. He's a representative of the law. And I've often said this to people that say they disagree with me on some point of the law. I say, well, look, I didn't write the laws. Don't argue with me about it. Go talk to the people who wrote the law, okay? That's who you got to deal with on that level. But you represent the law. You got to understand that when you put that uniform on, you're a policeman or you're a fireman or you're a nurse or whatever it is, you represent that profession. And it's very important that you never lose sight of that. Okay, you're still human. You're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna have likes and dislikes. Okay, but when our likes and our dislikes go over into bigotry and prejudice and stuff like that, that's when we need to start trying to get a handle on these things. I'm not gonna paint you as a bad guy and paint your whole race for that. That's ridiculous. But that's what bigotry and prejudice does, and there are other aspects of that too. You can blame a whole group of people for what one does, so you can't blame the whole police department for what one policeman may do. Okay, because they're human beings. That's the way it goes with the doctor. Okay, you go to the doctor and he gives you a bad diagnosis. I advise you to go find out from 2 or 3 other doctors what their diagnosis is immediately, because he is just giving you his opinion. He could make a mistake. Okay, we're human. We make mistakes. Okay, that goes with being human. That's not an excuse, but that's what happens. Okay, nevertheless. But when we deal with darkness, we've got to understand, and like you and I, Shandy, have talked to about this before on many of your other programs. When you've got more of the darkness in you instead of the light, when you've got more hatred than love, and then more goodness, evil than goodness in you, you've got a problem. You've got a basic spiritual problem going on here. And some of these people do have spiritual problems. And just recently, the political assassination that took place in my country with Charlie Kirk, and a lot of people may not agree with things. He was giving his opinion out a lot of times, may not have agreed with him. But why would you want to kill somebody because you didn't agree with what they were saying? That's not right. No matter which way you look at it, there's no excuse for that. And the person that killed this man thought he was spreading hate, so he said, I'm going to stop it with more hate. That's not how that works, okay? That's the redundant part of darkness. Darkness wants you to believe this kind of stuff. It is a form, and I think what you're seeing here in our social norms, you're seeing a form of brainwashing going on here. These people have been listening to and the journalism, the media is definitely, spreading this stuff around. They're a big part of this stuff. They are actually engaged, whether they realize it or not, in a form of brainwashing. They are putting forth a social and media consciousness that may not be the real picture, but that's what they want you to believe. Okay, and that's when it comes to politics. If I go out every day and say, Shanty, that you're a Nazi, or that you're a bad, evil person, eventually somebody out there is going to believe me, whether it's true or not. Okay, that's just the way they're going to believe. And when you start putting this stuff out on a daily basis about one certain person or a certain group of people, eventually, as the real Nazis used to say, a lie can become a truth if you tell it more. And it does, okay? It becomes a truth to people, although it's not really a truth. It becomes that to some people. They begin to believe it. And that's what's happening with these people in this country, especially with this political assassination and stuff going on. But now it's spreading all over the world. It's everywhere. The social consciousness is being
Then,
guided by media and movies, television, and personalities and celebrities. The media consciousness, I call it, is what it is. It's a living thing. It is actually indoctrinating them and brainwashing them into believing certain things that may not be true. A lot of it is definitely not true. And that's the
I think
problem. And
I think most of it is not true. When you talk about, I mean, especially if you're looking at mainstream media, and I think that's why we have these platforms, is so that we can be, people can discern what is truth and what is not truth. But again, it's a game of discernment, because without your own personal discernment, I mean, how many scabangas are sitting out here on the truther platforms? Meanwhile, they really are CIA assets that are there to be gatekeepers and controlled opposition. A lot of them. So they give us 80% truth, 20% lie. So we've got to discern what is truth and what is not truth. And really,
absolutely.
it's like it's the war, it's the spiritual warfare. It's the war of the minds right now. Along with highly advanced nuclear weapons and God knows what all else they've got stashed away in all the countries, right? But I think it's
That's
also
what I've said
important for
before.
us to realize.
There's never going to be full disclosure from these guys because their power lies in their secrecy, the things that they keep from us, the cover-ups that they keep going. And I see this as not only just the journalistic part of the world. It's not just the media, and it's not just the government. It's certain organizations that do this. There are certain individuals on a certain basis, Shanty, that do this, like George Soros and some of his other pals. These millionaires and billionaires think they're smarter than we are. They think they know what's good for us over what we think we know what's good for our own selves. They want to push their agenda, and they have an advantage that you and I do not have, incredible amounts of money and power. That's where they come from. And that's never good. And that's what I've been
For
talking about
me,
with watching a lot of this stuff, is that these guys
I think
is really a new world order that is taking place here. These guys
we've got to get
are
out of them.
yeah, these
Carry
guys
on.
are yeah, these guys are using their money for all the wrong reasons. Instead of being philanthropists, really go out and help people, house, feed the hungry and house people that don't have a house, and help people that don't have. Instead of doing that, they're going another route, trying to change all of society to the way they want it to be. Who died and left them God? I always say, who died and left them the job of God? They didn't. But they think they are. They think they know the best. That's what makes them. That's why they call themselves the Illuminati, the illuminated ones. They think they're so much smarter and better than we are that they know more about what we should be doing than we do our own selves. That's what they feel. Okay. But that is wrong on so many different levels. I won't even get into that today. That is so very wrong. But let me say this: they are definitely financing from the background with dark money, and that's what you got when you go to look at things like what's going on in the world today. You got to go look, where is that dark money coming from? Because that tells you the real story. Where the dark money is what where it's getting done in the background. Okay, and I have actually, especially in the riots in Los Angeles and in Portland. And let me say this right quick before I get into this. It's okay to protest. I am 100% for protesting. Yes, you need a voice, without a doubt. Protest, yes, but do it peacefully. Do it the right way. When a protest turns into a riot, that should be the end of the protest. Everybody should go home, okay? Because when it turns into a riot, mob rule takes over. And that's when lawlessness begins. Violence starts. Bad things happen. When that takes place, that needs to stop then because it has been violated. But there are certain people that are causing actions in the background that are guiding the narrative on this. And they are actually funding these people, Shanty. They are funding the people that are supposedly protesting. Supposedly, they are put in places out there to really start riots when they are given the signal to do it. They're really to push the crowd the way they want it to go because they are making social statements. They are directing what I called earlier the social consciousness. Okay? That's what they're doing. This is a form of manipulative power that they're using against us. But they've got people out there hired to protest. Now, let me tell you something. If you have to be paid to protest something, your heart's definitely not in that, okay? That's not your voice that you want to put out there. That's something else. You're working for somebody else or some other organization. That is not right. That was never meant to be that way. And especially when that protest turns into a riot, that's when it needs to stop. Everybody needs to quit and go home because it's already been screwed up. Okay? Because if it starts going violent, that's when everything needs to stop. But that's when they start. See, that's what they really want to get started and really want to do. That's why you have groups like Antifa and all that. And none of these places have a true leader. They don't have somebody that's directing this, directing that. And they do that for a reason. Because the big dark money is behind this. Okay? They can do it from the shadows and the darkness. And they can get it done effectively that way. And they don't leave a trace. You ever see anybody that just treated people horribly and did bad things and they always come out smelling like a rose? That's the way these guys are, That's the way they operate. They're not leaving any footprint so that you can find out they've been there. Okay? They're not leaving any fingerprints on what they're doing, but yet they're still doing it. And they're doing it for the wrong reasons. But I have actually seen them deliver pallets of cement blocks out in the middle of these protests so that they can start breaking them up and throw them. I have actually seen them deliver sledgehammers so they can break the curbs up and start throwing pieces of the curb at people. And they throw them mainly at ICE and police departments and stuff like that, who are just normal people like you and me. They want to go home at the end of the day. They got families. They got children just like you do, And they want to go home too. But these people are vilifying them, making them the villains, making them the good guys are suddenly the bad guys. Okay? And that's the way you're painting them. Don't you see? This is the directive that they want to push forward. This is what the darkness wants to do. It wants to direct your attention to these things. Why? Because you might have discernment. See, the darkness actively works against your discernment. It doesn't want you to know the truth of what's really going on here. And when you take blocks and throw them at police cars, or you take manhole covers and drop them off of bridges on people, do you know how much a manhole cover weighs? You would not want one hitting your windshield, okay? It's going to come through there and kill you. But they're doing this, okay? And this is organized. It may not look like it's organized, but it is organized. And it has bad dark money behind it. It has bad actors behind it. People who are doing this for all the wrong reasons because they think they know what is right for this world or what they think they want, the way they want the world to go. And they are using your voice against you. So when you get out there peacefully protest and they turn it into a riot, that makes you look bad. It makes you look like the one that's doing the violence. Although you may be perfectly innocent of it, you just wanted to get out there and exercise your free speech right, But they don't care about that. Don't you see? They're really the enemies of your free speech. They're really the enemies of your voice by the direction of this social consciousness that they're up to doing. And this is all over the world now. Antifa is in Paris. It's in London. It's in Bucharest. It's everywhere. It's not just in the U.S. anymore. Where did that come from? That's what got me interested. Where the heck, did this go? It's international now. Okay, I'll tell you why it's international. There's big money behind it. The movers and the shakers are behind this stuff. Like George Soros, like the a lot of the other older families that are involved, and they really are the part of the real Illuminati, if you want to call them that, whatever name you want to give them, have been doing this for hundreds of years. Okay, they go way, way back. But these families are involved in doing all this. They have the big money. The money is the power in this world. Okay, for good or bad, and unfortunately, most of the time, it's for bad. It's not helping people. It's not out there trying to, feed people that are hungry or give people, medicine that they need or whatever the situation. They're not out there doing that. Well, they could, if I were a billionaire, I would be trying to actually actively help people, not try to, manipulate people. That's wrong. Whenever you manipulate someone, I don't care on what level it is, you're usually doing something bad. And you get people's thought patterns changed. You almost are brainwashing them to believe certain things that are not true. Just like you said earlier, that's where actual real discernment comes in. I recently lost a very dear friend to a crazy misunderstanding. And she just dropped me like a hot rock and walked off, would not even speak to me, would not give me a chance to explain what went on. She was judge, jury, and executioner. Boom, that was it. And that's not how you have discourse. You need to talk to people. You need to discuss things with people and work things out. You can work things out if you want to. But she believed what she wanted to believe about me, although it was completely wrong. That's what she wanted to believe. And we've got to understand belief is a very powerful thing. But we've got to be very, very careful what we believe. Because people like George Soros and out there are spending billions to change our belief systems, to attack our discernment. And they're doing it on a high level every day in and day out, 24/7. They're hitting us. Well, a lot of this, like you said earlier, this misinformation. And a lot of it, they're putting out a little truth, but it's really lies covered with a little thin coat of the truth. That's what it is. And that's the way Satan always worked, by the way. That's the way the devil gets you to swallow a lie. He puts a little bit of a thin coating of truth on it so that it'll go down easy. Okay? That's the way they work. And they're doing that on a level with all this social consciousness maneuvering that they're doing. They are doing this on a level that's saying, hey, I can get you to believe this. I can get you to believe the sky is green instead of blue. Or the grass is yellow instead of green. They can get you to do that if you're not careful. They can screw your discernment up. They can screw the truths up that you live by in your life, the truths that you once hold dear. They can take those truths and begin to get you to question them and say, oh, well, maybe I was wrong all along, Maybe all the red people in the world are really out to get me, Or they're the bad people. They can do this. They can turn us against each other. They can change our social consciousness because they know this is a form of brainwashing. This is a control of manipulation. It's control. That's what it's all about. So if I want to control you, I put you in a little pigeonhole I want you in. And I can use you anytime I want. And I can turn you against whoever's in the next pigeonhole or whatever. We've seen that with social experiments done with rats, in mazes and stuff. We've seen that done in universities over the years, where they show you how social consciousness can be manipulated. Now, by social consciousness, I mean this is what everybody's thinking about. This is what everybody's talking about. Just like this show today, what we're talking about here is part of social consciousness, okay? That's what's out there in the world. It is a living, viable thing almost. It changes from day to day. It moves around. But social consciousness is part of us, part of our output, and part of our realization of the world around us. Yes, it's politics. It can be politics. It can be social norms. It can be movies. It can be the next hot thing that comes out. Whatever it is, social consciousness is what we are outputting spiritually. Okay? And if it's not good, if it's dark, then bad things are going to happen with that social conscience. Bad things are going to go wrong. It's going to go wrong in a bad, very bad way. Okay? And that's what you're seeing happening today with Antifa and all these other groups. They are tools and weapons of the New World Order. Now, I'm going to say New World Order, but really it's an old world order. It's been around for hundreds of years, okay? These families have been controlling the narrative for a long, long time, okay? And they want to think that want us to think we've got a voice when they're really trying to control that too. And that's not good either. They want us to be manipulated on a higher level than we ever dreamed possible. And they don't want us to know it. That's the sneaky part of it. They want to keep you hidden, you know. But even now, Shanty, and this is what really concerns me, they're not even operating in the darkness of the shadows anymore. They're coming out more and more and more every day. And they don't care. Because now they're acquiring more power over us than they've ever had before. And that's what we've got to watch out for and be careful about. And that's why it's so very important that shows like this and other ones that are out there, you know, the ones that talk to the whistleblowers and the people that are, putting out this stuff that's happened to them and the things that they're involved in. That's why it's so important that we get the truth out there so that people can see the real truth of things that are going on. Not the narrative they want to give us, the controlled narrative they want to feed us. We don't want that. We want the truth. We want to have that true discernment of what is really going on in this world. Just like my friend I was talking about. She wanted to believe the worst in me because that's what she wanted to believe, although it wasn't true. It was absolutely not true. That's what she wanted to believe. And we got to be very careful. What we want to believe may not be the real thing. Okay, that's what we've got to be very, very, very careful with. And that's where discernment comes in, you know. And some people you think have got discernment or think they have discernment are really far off the mark, you know. But you can't be judge, jury, and executioner on this stuff. That's why research is very important. And, you know, you and I, Shanny, both tell that to people every day. Do your research. Get in there and look it up. Don't take our word for it. Find out for yourself. That's what you need to be doing. Don't listen to the news media. Don't listen to the other guys saying this and that all the time and believe every bit of it is 100% the truth, because it may not be, you know. Look it up, look into it for yourself. If you hear a show where somebody comes out as a whistleblower, you need to investigate that. If you're really concerned about it, say it's about, you know, child endangerment or something, then you need to start doing investigative research into that to find out for yourself what the real story, what's really going on here. That way you will know, you will sharpen your discernment like a knife. A knife that is not sharp is not worth anything, okay? And your discernment needs to be sharpened every day. It needs to be sharp so you can cut through the lies to find the truth, okay? That's where it's very important that it comes in. And discernment, by the way, is one of the gifts that God will give you if you ask for it. It's one of the gifts of the Holy Spirit. Discernment is a very important gift. Self-control is another one, by the way. That's one you really need too in this world. You got to have self-control, you know. If you don't do certain things a certain way, you can go overboard with anything. I don't care, even the truth. You know, you can do that. You can go overboard into bad territories that you need to stay out of. So that's why it's very important that you exercise. You keep that muscle of discernment right where it needs to be. Just like, you know, you exercise other parts of your body. That discernment needs to be exercised too. It needs to be strong. It needs to be strengthened every day. Sharpened like that knife I talked about. A knife that is not sharp is fit to be thrown away. It's no good. Okay? It's not going to do anything for you. But don't throw the knife away. You can sharpen it. Okay? Yeah, you can sharpen that knife and it will work for you again. And that's the way discernment needs to be. And your eye for the truth needs to be trained. You can train yourself to see the real stuff that's going on here. But research is very important. You need to look it up for yourself. You need to do, just like I said earlier about being a journalist. A journalist is not a journalist unless he looks investigatively into these things to see what's really going on. And that's what you got to be. You got to be, don't take the word of these so-called journalists, and most of them are not journalists, folks. Believe me, they're not. They're shills for different political parties. They're up there. They're giving a narrative out. They've been paid to give out. Okay, trust me. A lot of this is not the real deal. That's what you need to find out. Go actively search for the truth, and you will find it. It's there. Okay, but it's very important that you have that truth because you cannot live your life in light, love, and honesty without truth. Okay, it just don't work. And to really truly live your life to 100%, you got to grasp that truth. You got to live by certain truths that are there, okay? And you got to make sure those truths are very important to you in many ways because they definitely are. If you want to live the right kind of life and be good to other people and be a viable part of this society, you need the truth. The truth will truly set you free. What does it set you free to be? Everything that you can be and should be. And the better part of you is what you want. What you always want to strive for, the better part of you. And that's what the truth helps you to become. Okay. And you can see the manipulation. You can see the guidance that they're trying to guide you with and all this other stuff, that social consciousness I thought about, all this. You can see what they're doing. Okay. If you really look, but you got to look. You know, I've often said this in the past. We look, but we seldom see. We listen, but we seldom hear what's really there, and we've got to start training ourselves and trying to open ourselves up to this because if we close ourselves off to it, we're going to believe the wrong things. We're going to believe lies, and we don't want to do that. The world is filled with too many lies for you to add any more to it. Okay, we don't need that. We don't need to keep passing lies around to each other and say, "Oh, this is the truth, or that's the truth." We need to stop that. We need to really find out what is really truth in this world and stick with that and go with that. There's so much deceit. There's so much untruthfulness. There's so much deception and misinformation for a purpose is being put out there, folks. It's being put out there it's not an accidental thing, okay? A lot of it may be accidentally, People can pass rumors thinking it's the truth, okay? But most of this out there is out there by design. It has a purpose. They're doing this to mislead you for a purpose, to keep you from finding out the real truth. Because they're covering up that truth. They don't want you to know what's really going on. And it is your fundamental right, not only to free speech and safety and happiness, your fundamental God given right is to have the truth. Always, you deserve the truth, not the falsehoods, not the lies, not the deceit and deception. You deserve the truth. God said that. God wants you to have a handle on the truth. Okay, because that's what he's all about. What did Jesus say that God was? He is spirit and what? Truth. That's very important. You remember that. You worship God in the spirit and in truth because that's what he is. Okay? And it's very important. If you want to have a relationship with God, if you want to hook up spiritually with God, you can't do it without the truth. That's just the way that works. Okay? And of course, it's a spiritual thing as well, but the truth is important too. And you got to find out what the truth of God is and make that one of the most important things in your life. Because if you don't, you will fall victim to the lies and deceit, the terrible deception that is out there that is trying to destroy us. And yes, they will destroy you with untruths and lies. That's what it's put out there for. Destruction, corruption, and destruction. That's where it's coming from. That's where it's at. But look, just take a look. Watch the news. Some people come up to me and say, "Oh, I don't watch the news. It's depressing." You need to know. Don't shut yourself off on what's going on around you, folks. You need to know what's going on. And I've often said this, Shanty, a lot of times. It is now imperative for your very survival to know the truth and the information that it contains. It's very important for your survival now to know that. Don't shut yourself off from it. Find out what's truly going on in this world. Keep an eye on it, because if you don't, one day it's going to come knocking on your back door. Somehow, sooner or later, the darkness will come after you, my friends. I don't know how it'll be. I don't know what it is. It can be some type of violence. It can be some type of deception. Whatever it is, the darkness is going to come after you. If it hasn't already, and just because it's already come for you once, don't mean it ain't coming back again. Okay, you got to remember that. That's the way the darkness in this world works, and that is our enemy. That darkness is our enemy because it's everything, the enemy of everything that we hold most dear. That includes truth and goodness and light and love. It is the enemy of all that. And that's why that darkness needs to be an eye kept on. Okay. You need to watch what it's doing and what it's up to at all times. And like I said, somehow, sooner or later, it's going to come after you. I don't know how it is, but it will. And we're going to see that in the days ahead. More so than ever before. This darkness is rising now. And it's rising because I think it knows its time is running out. The clock is going. It's rolling on it, okay? And it knows its time is running out. And I think without doubt we are truly coming close to the end of days. And that things are going to start happening now like we have never ever seen them before in our lifetime. We're going to see things that will blow our mind, you know. We're going to see things that we never thought we would ever see. And I am seeing things that I thought would be somewhere in the future now are right here and now with us, okay? And that's the surprising thing about it. And that's what concerns me the most. It is rolling faster and faster as time goes. Darkness is increasing, not only the darkness of inhuman darkness in this world, but the human darkness in all of us is increasing. We've got to fight back against that. We've got to actively push back against it. And what do you fight darkness with? Light. Light and love and goodness and doing things and helping your fellow man and trying to understand the truth in this world. That's how you fight back against this darkness. And that's the only way you're ever going to win the fight against this darkness. And that's the way to do it. And without God's help, we're not going to make it. Okay. And that's why we definitely need that very important relationship with our Creator to and our faith to get us through these dark times that are going to increase against us. I'm afraid it's not. I would love to say, hey, folks, it's going to get better, but I don't see that happening because I see what the equation is. It's not only the inhuman darkness, but it's hooking up with the human darkness, and that makes it even worse. That's that double barrel problem I talked about earlier. That's what you see going on in the world today. That's what these men with millions and billions of dollars are actively doing. If somebody, like I said earlier, breaks in your home and rapes you, steals your money, and beats you up, and I take up for those guys, where does that put me? Okay? Where does that put me? If I'm an advocate for them, if I'm more worried about their rights than your rights as a victim, I'm not working for the greater good here, folks, okay? And we got to understand that people out there are not on the side of the good. A lot of them are not on the side of good, okay? And we got to understand that. That's what we're dealing with too here, okay? So that's why, as Shanty said, that discernment is so very all important. Sharpen that discernment and keep it sharp because it is one of the fundamental tools that will ensure your physical and spiritual survival in this world against the rising darkness that is so prevalent today. So, to me, it is very important that we just keep our eyes open on what's going on in this world. Because if we don't, if we like the old ostrich and we stick our head in the dirt, don't ever forget our butt sticking up in the air, okay? It makes a great target, all right? So we've got to be very careful about that and not say, I'm going to stick my head in the sand. We need to know what's going on. Ask questions, have a voice. Learn what's truly going on. You need to open your mind, not only your heart and your spirit, but you got to open your mind to these things and understand what's truly going on around you. If you're not open to your environment, then you're not part of it. And if you're not part of it, you've closed yourself off, and that's in a very bad position to be in. Okay, you don't want to do that. And I watch a lot of these people, like on Shandy's show here. All these people come out as whistleblowers and all that. I say to myself, here are the real heroes. These are the real people that are coming out and revealing the truth and telling what's really going on and not letting anybody shut them up. I admire people like that. They have courage. They have determination. There's goodness in them for this. Those are the real heroes, you know. They're not Superman or Batman. Okay, the real heroes are these kind of people that stand up for the truth, no matter what. And the truth is worth standing up for because it will always push back and fight against that darkness. Absolutely.
I'm of the opinion, Dennis, truth needs no fight. Truth is truth, and whatever comes in the vicinity of truth simply dissolves into, it's like the clouds dissolved by the sun. So, for me, that's what it is. And, even though there's so much rising darkness, absolutely, and I'm agreeing, and I'm looking around me and I'm seeing, if we look, we're talking the recent assassinations that have taken place. I've seen sufficient evidence to satisfy my need of truth that both of these things have been a big fat hoax. I've seen sufficient evidence to satisfy me that this is just another delusional psyop and that is getting loose harvesting going. We've been talking about this for years on this platform, and that's how they do it, is with these psyops. So for me, it is absolutely, we've got to see the truth of these situations. We've got to see that the people we often tend to put our faith in and we choose them as leaders are very often the ones that are not the good leaders at all. They're often the ones that have been bought over. I love what's happening now personally. And the reason why this is all coming up right now and we're seeing this stuff is not because they are rising, in my opinion. We are shining light on their bullshit. We are waking up. This stuff has been going on for millennia. I mean, if we look at the child transportation, we look at the um, horrific stuff that's going on, has gone on all over this planet. How many years has it taken to make the dams? How many years has it taken for them to figure out how to hide our true history and to create an entire system that keeps humanity dumbed down? But ultimately, we are participating in it. Every time we choose to buy into their crap, we choose to participate in that system. So I'm saying, I go absolutely, I'm shining my light on you, baby. Reveal yourself to me. Show me what you made of. Come, I'm waiting for you. Let's see what you made of. And what I do then is I simply hand it back to my creator. Because you see, if we go into spiritual warfare and start chopping demons' heads off, they go straight back to the underground where they're not made accountable for their actions. But the minute I say, God, this one's come on my path, I have no idea what it's doing here, deal with it, that being then becomes accountable to God. It then is one less demon in hell that has now become accountable to God. So he's not in hell where he can get up to more shenanigans and grow 40,000 other heads. He's absolutely gone back to the ultimate creator where he's being dissolved and disillusioned into whatever his karma with the creator is. I'm not scared of these things. They must come. You see, for me, this is a frequency war. I don't see it as a war. We've had too many wars on this planet. And the minute we combat each other, there's a friction that's created. And that's where the loosh comes in. That loosh is created through combative friction. So when we don't choose friction, I choose light. I choose peace. I've gone through the paths I've needed to walk through to get to the point I am right now, where I can understand that in the way that I say, I'm not scared of you. And I love that because we are shedding light on their shenanigans. They are forced to rise, actually. They are forced to rise. And I'm going, oh, baby, we're so ready for you. Come to mama. That's how I look at this, Dennis. And I think that
Well, I
the
tell
more
you,
of us that can see,
I remember somebody once
I,
said the truth is like a lion. Set it free and it will defend itself. But you got to set the lion free first. Yeah, that's the way that works. Definitely. But I agree with you. You know, and like I said, that's where investigation comes in. Though you need to look into these things. If there's something going on you don't understand it, don't take it at face value. You know, look into it, get behind it, look deep into it, and see what's really going on there. You know, that's
I
you deserve the
agree.
knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah, I fully agree. Sorry, I'm just trying to sort out my camera while I'm talking to you. Seems to be playing silly bokers here
We can
again
hear you.
tonight. Um, I fully agree, Dennis. We need to educate ourselves. We need to do the research we need to. But what I'm loving at this point is that if I look back at 5 years ago to when Aquarius Rising Africa started, and I look back to the amount of people that have platforms and that are talking about this, it has multiplied times 100. And that to me is so cool. But yes, that means there's a lot more people speaking, which is fantastic. But also we have to be a lot more discerning in terms of who are the true survivors. And I'm just talking about the survivors here, okay? And who are the true survivors, and who are the ones that are actually put there that, yes, have been put through the system, but they've actually been trained to be groomers and handlers and gatekeepers and psychologists and psychiatrists who literally, when the survivors go out or sort of seek help for maybe memory retrieval or something like that, they just get reprogrammed right back in again. I have been around this platform for long enough to see that happen enough times, and it actually breaks my heart to see that. These trusting people, and it's really often you're gonna hear the most slick speakers on these platforms. And guys, I'm telling you something here, and I'm certainly not going to be mentioning any names. This is up to your discernment. There are some of the slickest speakers out there who are speaking these slick talks, okay? But remember how the system also works. A lot of the survivors are, yes, they've been gone through a lot of the same stuff, but they're actually, as I was saying, groomed to become handlers and programmers themselves. So they
Mhm.
therefore then get the book deals, they get the wives or the husbands, right? To make
Oh, yeah.
things look good. They become the speakers and the motivational blah 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 blah. I'm not saying all of them. I'm not saying all of them, guys. This is where discernment comes in. You've got to decide. You've got to
Let
decide,
me tell
and
you.
you've got to be discerning here.
Let
But
me
the
tell
problem
you a
is,
quick
is that
story.
let me
Let me
let
tell
me
you a
just
quick
finish
story
quickly.
along those same lines. I was contacted one time several years back by a woman from Texas, I think, somewhere like that. And she said, I'm having a big problem with demons. Demons are attacking my house, my family. They're scratching my children. They're attacking my children, and all that. And she said, I'm ready to fly you out here, to help us out with this, and to help get rid of the demons and all this stuff. And I said, well, I'll do whatever I can for you. She said, oh yeah, by the way, I'm writing a book about it too. And I'm going, okay, your family's being attacked. Your children are being actively attacked by demons, and you're writing a book about it. Okay, that would be the last thing I'd be doing in the middle of this kind of thing. Okay, so I could tell right off the bat that didn't take a lot of discernment, folks, that this woman was not coming from a good place here. Okay, and you can tell that with people. What is their true motivation? Sometimes, Shandy, what's really going on? If my family's being actually attacked by demonic forces, I'm not going to stop in the middle of it and write a book about it. That just not. I've got my. Let's say I've got my priorities all in the wrong place, definitely. And you got to wonder about some people's motivation. Definitely, you got to wonder about that. Uh oh, we've lost your sound.
I think so many
Oh,
people
hey.
are actually ignorant. They're actually
Mm.
ignorant, naive, and ignorant. That's unfortunately the problem. And that's what my observation has been a lot through a lot of this. And I'm talking about just purely working with people who have gone through a lot of this stuff. And I'm not even talking about survivors now, behind the scenes stuff. There's a lot of naivety in the world. That is my experience. People are so naive. And unfortunately, Dennis, religion has played an horrific role in brainwashing people. And I think, and I'm not even talking about the cabal and their nefarious activities. I'm talking about people who are led to believe that they are sinners. And I'll speak to someone and they'll say, well, I'm not worthy of anything. I'm just a sinner. And I'm going, what the hell are you talking about? Stop that talk right now. If you're going to work
Well,
with
like I
me,
talked about
that
my
talk
friend,
about
you know,
the universe.
it's
But
like
it's
I
not
talked
they
about my
they're not.
friend. We don't never need to set ourselves up as judge, jury, and executioner on anybody or anything in that respect. But there's something very important about religion you got to remember, Shanty. It is man-made. Okay, God does not, endorse any religion. Okay, it's a man-made thing. And whenever you
That's
run into anything
the
like
thing
that
is,
that's man-made, it has a tendency to
but
go into bad
all,
areas. Put it that way.
all religion is man-made, and actually so is the Bible. It's written by man, and it's been translated and retranslated so many times that how do we even know what the truth is? Because there are so many small little schisms that make the ultimate difference. And this is where we've got to, as human beings, we have to really go into, because God lives within us. God is not some great force outside there
That
that's going
is
to punish you.
that,
And that's
that
unfortunately what a lot of
that's
people think when they, let me just finish.
that's
So they'll
where
come and
the
they'll
Holy Spirit
say,
comes in. That's where the Holy Spirit comes in, Shanty. That's why you need the Holy Spirit, the indwelling of the Holy Spirit. It gives you the real truth of God. It lets you see the Word of God the way it should be seen. It's just like I know, a lot of people we say that, the Bible was written by people, but it was written supposedly by people and inspired by the Holy Spirit of God. And it has to be read through the Spirit of God. Just like I said earlier, what Jesus said about God. He is spirit and truth, therefore he has to be worshipped that way. And that's how you hook up with God and that relationship with God that way. He will show you his truth. He will show you the things you
through
need to
your
know
heart,
that are in you and outside
through
as well. Yeah.
through your own heart, not because
Mhm.
somebody else is bashing it into
No.
your head with a book. You
Yeah.
yourself have to go into that place. And unfortunately, what I've also seen, Dennis, is that the majority of survivors have been religiously indoctrinated. Why?
Hmm.
Because it makes them compliant and it makes them obedient. So they
It's
start off
manipulation by
life
people.
with, well,
People,
exactly. They start off
people
life
in control.
believing that,
People People in control cannot control without manipulation. That's definitely where that's coming from. Absolutely. Manipulation is what they're good at because that's how they control even your thought processes is possible. That's what we're talking about today with this rising darkness. Is they're seeking to manipulate and control every aspect of that, and it includes your voice that you have, the rights given to you by your creator. They're out to control every bit of that. And the way they do it, they
well,
can use religion, they can use education, they can use the media. They have all these things as tools to work with against you.
but
That's why
exactly.
discernment is
They
so important. Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's the thing, is that's been happening for so many centuries. we are kind of born into that system, this Luciferian system, where we become part of the matrix. And it's up to
That
us
is
to
the matrix.
discern how to get out of it. And it's a frequency thing. It's a frequency thing. It's not how many verses you know. It's about how you live in your heart and how you follow your guidance from your heart. Because, like the Buddhists believe, the mind is in the heart. And it's now been proven that there's actually a brain in the heart too. So when you lead with your heart, you follow truth. And when you follow truth, you smell bullshit a mile away. You don't even have to encounter it. You just smell it. You know bullshit when you see it. You don't even have to pray about it. It's
I
there.
spent a lot
You
of it
see it.
too.
It's like flashing at you in
Yeah.
neon lights. It's right there. And then you know that that is God that lives within you, within your heart. And when you follow that guidance, that's the discernment and the spiritual fitness, because then you know without even a question what's crap and what's truth. And that for
Mhm.
me is how I discern. And when I know that I'm not feeling good in my body and I'm like, ah, then I'm on the wrong path. Then I'm going to backpedal, pray, say a prayer, meditate. Okay, there we go. Thank you, God. Now I'm ready. Let's go. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. I am team light. That's what I am. And I'm not scared of the dark. I promise you that now. I will stand here and I'll face whatever I need to. I'm one of the few South Africans. I do not own a gun. I sleep with my door open. I
Well,
sometimes
you
leave
know,
my wallet outside.
As
Um,
Jesus said,
I,
you let
I,
as Jesus says, you let your light shine among men, and therefore they will amplify your holy Father in heaven. That's where your light comes in. You know, a light is sitting on the hill is seen by everybody. You know, and I've often told people that it's not the indoctrination. You don't try to cram religion down people's throats. You don't do that. You live by example. You let them see how you live that way, and people that speaks more volume. Action speak a whole lot louder than words, and that's where that comes in at. If you live your life the correct way and show people how you're doing with that, they're gonna come up to you one day and say, "Well, tell me what your secret is." Then you can tell them, okay. But I'm not an advocate of going around shoving stuff down somebody's throat. You need to believe this. You need to believe that. That's manipulation. That's indoctrination, and that's what we've got too much of in the world today. That's what this darkness is made up out of. Definitely, without a doubt. But yes, our light, our spiritual light, is what will shine back against the darkness. Absolutely, and dispel that darkness. But we got to have that spiritual light. Definitely.
it dissolves the darkness. It dissolves, exactly, it dissolves. And you will know whether your light is authentic when it dissolves that which is dark in your vicinity. Think about walking into a dark room and switching on the light. It doesn't just light up that little corner, it lights up the entire room and that which is around it. You can now see what you're dealing with. So, and if it lights like a little tiny half a glowworm that is only showing you 3 zillimeters from your eyes, then perhaps you don't have the right light switched on. Then you got to go a little bit deeper and you got to go into your heart and you got to really access the upper heart, which is cosmic love, God love, heavenly love, right? And then your
Mm-hmm.
lower heart, which is intimate love, human love, physical love. And those two have to come together. So you've got to learn to love your enemy. And when we start looking at the enemy, you see the enemy is really you at the end of the day, which is your thoughts. That's a story for another day, though.
Yeah,
And when you start
exactly what I,
lighting, yeah, lighting
that's
up
exactly
your
what I
own
told.
life,
That's exactly what
yeah,
I
you
told someone
see,
the other day. Candy. I don't hate anybody in this world. That's the way I look at it. I don't want to hate anybody. I want to love people. I want to show love to people. I want to build up people and not tear them down. Some people all they want to do is tear people down. They want to tear. They're talking bad about people all the time. I'm not that way. I want to build people up, not tear them. I mean, not people, situations. You want to build good situations up. You don't want to tear them down. I've seen perfectly good buildings that were torn down that could have went on for many years. Why would they do that? I've often thought about that beautiful old buildings. They tear them down. Build something else that looks terrible. What? Don't do that. Don't do that in life. Build things up. Okay. Don't tear things down. Love people, and that love will shine forth and be your light. Not just a light for other people, but your own guiding light too. That will help you. In the darkness. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. It's really that. And it's the trust and it's the faith over the fear, because when you have the faith and the knowing, because faith becomes knowing. And when you have that knowing, you know that you are protected. And honestly, it's not an arrogant thing. It's a humbling thing. It's something that is humble and it's appreciated. And I am so grateful that I have the gifts that God has blessed me with, that I may be able to use them to assist others. And that is the energy with which I enter every day of my life. And I say, here I am, God, use me today. How would you like to use me, God? I'm here. And trust me, God makes use of my services in the most amazing ways. And I feel very blessed to have that. And that's what I'm saying. It's like when we get over that mountain, that we are not good enough, that we are these sinners in this world and we are not welcome through the gates of heaven. Guys, if you have that idea in your head, please get it out right now. That is the thing that keeps you back. There is no gates of heaven out there. The gates of heaven are in your heart. You've got to open up your own heart and realize God lives in your heart. And when you realize how much God loves you, you have no choice but to adore yourself. You will, and I'm not talking about in an egoistic way. You realize God uses you as a conduit in the most amazing ways. But you have to love yourself enough so that God may use you for those purposes. You cannot do that when you think you are some insignificant little sinner sitting in the corners of nowhere. That God cannot use you when that is what you believe about yourself. I'll just say
That's
that
kind of like
straight
that
off.
philosopher
You got to
once.
love yourself.
Philosopher once said, Shanty, who am I that God would use me? But you must be important or he wouldn't use you. That's the way that goes. And somebody asked me the other day what my favorite scripture was. And I'll give it to you today. It's first in Latin, non tambo mala, fear no evil. And that's the way you got to live your
Exactly.
life in
Well,
bravery and not fear. Yeah.
evil, like evil is live spelled backwards. So it's the
Yeah.
inverted aspect of live. So when you are not living in light and being happy, go outside, run on the beach. Go, it's got nothing to do with sitting and praying to God every day. That is not happiness. It is part of your day, but go out and appreciate the nature that God has given for us. Walk around barefoot, sing in the showers, sing in the rain, be ridiculous, laugh, run, play with your kids, roll in the hay. That is what brings us joy. That is the thing that changes our energy. And amazing when you do that today, suddenly tomorrow your problems with your bank manager just get sorted out, or something just suddenly changes. How did that happen? Well, actually, yesterday I was happy. So totally unrelated, but I decided to be happy yesterday, and suddenly everything else in my world starts changing too. And when we allow that, when we allow ourselves just to get out of this cage we put ourselves in our mind by believing that everything we do is wrong and bad. It's so not. Get out, have fun, laugh with your family, get tipsy if you need to or want to. There's no sin in that. If you make a habit of that, yes, then it becomes a problem. The sin means you've lost your way from God or your creator. So you've gone astray. Now find your way back. That's the only thing, is to find your way back to your own heart where God lives. And when you live in your heart where God lives, and your neighbors and everyone else lives in their heart where God lives, you're going to be singing the holy choir very soon. And it got nothing to do with chopping demons' heads off. It's got everything to do with frequency and creating a whole new world where we understand things differently. We don't have to hurt others. We don't have to run from things because they live on a different vibration to us. We are there. We are the birds. They are the swamp creatures. We don't engage. Different worlds, basically. Same planet, different dimension. That's what happens, in my opinion. Anyway, yes, exactly. I think that was Amber there. Let me just see what you said there. Energy flows where attention goes. Yeah, absolutely. So true. So send love. If you've got a pain in your body, send it love. If you've got a headache, send it love. If you're sick, send your body love. Tell your body how grateful you are for it, because it's clearly needing a little bit of attention. If your body's sick, every part of your body means something. Show your body love and you'll see what it gives back to you. That's the way I see life. And when you honor yourself in that way, of course you're honoring God, because God is your creator. And God now knows and sees how much you appreciate God's creation, that is you. And when you appreciate yourself, you have no option but to appreciate another. It's like the ripple effect. You have no option but to appreciate your husband or your wife for suddenly doing things and being in a way you never understood or saw before, in a more positive light. Things become more positive. And so the negative dissolves. When you go into your heart, that's where it is.
And also, even worship is a part of appreciation. Appreciate
Totally.
when you appreciate things. Like, yeah, that is part of worship as well. Definitely. It's a very important concept to remember, I remember what was once said back in I remember the 60s, okay, back in the old 6 days of the 60s. They had a saying that said, the spirit is free and free is the spirit. And that's very interesting, that
Right.
saying. It reminds me of that. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Dennis. Yay. Well, we enjoyed the heart centered conversation this evening. Thank you, Dennis.
Well, we always have very
Um,
interesting conversations, definitely. Absolutely. I enjoy them.
yeah, we do.
Yeah.
I do indeed. I do indeed. And I enjoy our Arachat family who always joins us. And I enjoy you guys very much. Thank you so much. Appreciate you all. And we will see you back next week with Dr. Dennis again. And tomorrow I shall see you with Holly at 6 o'clock again. Dennis, do you want to tell everyone where they can get hold of you, and what you're up to for the next few days?
Yeah, so you can find me over on my channel, Hunting the Shadows YouTube podcast channel. If you haven't subscribed, you might want to think about that. We also have a club. Also, it's called Hunting the Shadows Club. If you want to join that, and you can find me over there. And I have 3 podcasts a week. Monday nights at 9 o'clock p.m. I do the Road Less Traveled. Wednesday nights I do Hunting the Shadows at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Friday night, tomorrow night, I'll be doing Paranormal Point of View. And that comes on at 9 o'clock p.m. All my shows are 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I did that on purpose, folks, so everybody could remember it better. Okay. So anyway, my books are available on Barnes and Noble, and Amazon. Just look up the author Dennis W. Carroll. And if you need to contact me for anything whatsoever it might be, and I have some very interesting cases sometimes come in through that way, you can contact me at denniswcarroll.com or email me at denniswcarroll@gmail.com.
Whoa. There's Dr. Dennis's little scroll running on the bottom as well. And also, all Dr. Dennis's details are in the description area anyway. Okay, guys and girls, I want to say God bless you all and thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Always enjoy our gatherings, our weekly gatherings, where we talk about everything that's dark and light. We just live in this beautiful world, and it's just wonderful to be hanging out with you all. Thank you for doing life at the same time as me, everybody. Yay! See you soon.